Would you have the courage to throw your life savings into a pile of old stones and rotten wood? Imagine looking at a gigantic structure, 750 square meters, that looks more like a horror movie set than a home, and saying, yes, this is where I'm going to live. Most people would call that madness. Some would call it financial suicide. But to understand what you are about to see in the next few minutes, you need to forget logic. What drives someone to leave the comfort of a ready-made life to face the cold, the dust, and the constant fear that everything might collapse? That is what we're going to find out together. Get ready, because this isn't just a renovation, it is a test of human endurance. Before we step inside this ruin, quickly hit that subscribe button if you love stories of true transformation. A huge thank you to everyone who already supports the channel. You make this possible. Now, take a deep breath and follow me. Take a good look at the size of this place. 750 square meters. Can you imagine how big that is? It's bigger than 4 or 5 normal houses put together. When you buy an old property, an abandoned winery like this one, you aren't just buying walls, you are buying problems that have been ignored for decades. Have you ever felt that knot in your stomach after making a decision you can't take back? That moment when you sign the paper and the keys fall into your hand, and suddenly the dream turns into a heavy weight on your back. That is exactly how this story begins, not with applause, but with a scary silence in the face of the work ahead. Many people dream of having a house in the country, escaping the city, living a simpler life. But is the simple life actually easy? The first thing you notice when entering a place like this is the smell of time, of dampness, of things that were forgotten. And the first challenge isn't building anything, it's destroying. Would you have the guts to take a sledgehammer and knock down a wall without knowing exactly what's holding up the roof? Demolition is the phase where reality kicks down the door. Every piece of plaster that falls reveals a surprise. Sometimes it's a beautiful brick hidden away, but most of the time it's a crack, a rotten pipe, or a beam eaten by termites. And here enters the fear. Have you ever been afraid that your money would run out before the work was done? This is the nightmare of anyone who decides to renovate. When you deal with an old structure, there is no fixed budget. The building decides how much you are going to spend, and it is a cruel boss. During the first few months, it feels like you are just removing trash, skips and more skips of rubble going out, and the feeling that the house is getting emptier and more dangerous. Could you sleep at night knowing that the roof over your head might not withstand the next storm? Anxiety becomes your constant companion. But there is something magical about cleaning up the mess. It's as if you are healing a wound. Slowly, beneath the dirt, the true soul of the building begins to appear. Ancient wineries were built to last, made with heavy stones and noble woods that would cost a fortune today. The challenge is, how do you transform a place made to store wine and grapes into a comfortable place for people? The cold in these structures is brutal. Imagine spending the winter working in a place where the temperature inside is the same as outside. Your fingers freeze, your breath turns to smoke, and you ask yourself, why did I do this? Have you ever given up on something halfway through because it seemed too hard?
Persistence is the secret that no one tells you. In internet videos, everything happens fast. A scene cut and the wall is ready. But in real life, it's days sanding the same wood, weeks waiting for cement to dry, months living in dust. It is a test of patience. And it is in these moments, when exhaustion hits and the body aches, that you discover who you really are. They say a renovation can end a marriage or strengthen a union forever. When you and your partner are covered in dust, exhausted, and without a hot shower, there is no room for pretending. You need to trust each other blindly. And then something starts to change. Fear begins to give way to hope. You know that feeling of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? In construction, that light is the first painted wall. It is the first clean floor. When you see a room, just one, finally ready, the energy changes. Suddenly, that stone monster doesn't seem so scary anymore. It starts to feel like a home. Have you ever felt the pride of making something with your own hands? Not buying it ready-made, but making it. To look at a corner of the room and know that every brick, every layer of paint has your sweat in it? That feeling is addictive. It is what keeps these people going, even when everything seems to go wrong. But don't be fooled. The big problems appear when you least expect them. On a project of this size, logistics are a nightmare. How do you heat 750 square meters? How do you get water and electricity to every corner? Modern solutions need to live together with the old structure without destroying it. It is a delicate dance between the past and the future. Would you have the sensitivity to respect the history of the building, or would you tear everything down to make something modern? The beauty of these projects is exactly in keeping the scars of time. A crooked stone wall has more personality than any straight drywall made today. Do you agree? Time passes differently inside a construction site. Outside, the world rushes, the news changes, the seasons turn. But inside the winery, time is measured in tasks, before the roof and after the roof, before the floor and after the floor. A year seems like an eternity, but at the same time, it flies by. When you look back at the first day, you can barely recognize the people who started this journey. They looked younger, more naive. Now there is a look of tiredness, yes, but also of a strength that didn't exist before. The house shapes the dweller just as much as the dweller shapes the house. There is a point in the renovation that we call the turning point. It's when the house stops being a construction site and starts to smell like cleaning products, like food, like life. It's when you put the first piece of furniture in place, a chair, a table. It seems like little, but in that war zone, a clean table with a vase of flowers is a symbol of victory. It is the white flag you raise to tell the chaos that you won. Can you imagine the emotion of having the first breakfast in the kitchen you built yourself? The taste is different. It tastes like freedom. But freedom costs a lot. I'm not just talking about money, but about lifetime. Would you be willing to sacrifice weekends, holidays, parties, and trips for a whole year to build your dream? Many people say yes, but few people can handle the reality. The isolation is real. While your friends are at the bar or at the beach, you are carrying bags of cement. While the world rests, you are fixing leaks. It is a lonely journey, even if you share it on the internet. Likes and comments help. They give strength, but the person carrying the weight at the end of the day is you.
And speaking of the internet, why do we like watching this so much? Why are you here now, watching stones being piled up? Maybe it's because deep down, we all want to fix something. Maybe your life doesn't need a roof renovation, but a renovation of habits, of career, of relationships. Seeing something that was broken, abandoned, and dead come back to life gives us hope. It makes us believe that no matter how bad things are, with hard work and vision, they can get better. Do you feel that? That desire to take something bad and turn it into something good? The scale of this winery, 750 meters, reminds us of how small we are. The building was here before these people were born, and if the work is done right, it will remain here long after they are gone. Restoring a historic building is an act of humility. You are not the owner of it. You are just the caretaker for now. You are ensuring the history continues. This takes a bit of the pressure off the ego and puts the focus on legacy. What do you want to leave for the world? What are you building that will last longer than you? We reach the halfway mark of the journey, and things start to speed up. The electrical wiring, the pipes, all that stuff hidden inside the walls is like the veins and nerves of a body. No one sees it, no one praises it, but without it, the house doesn't work. It is the ungrateful work. In your life, how much of your effort is invisible? How much of what you do does no one see, but is essential for you to stay standing? In renovation, this is the most frustrating phase because visually it seems like nothing has changed, but it is where the most money and energy are spent. You need to have faith in the process. And then the finishing, the part everyone waits for. It is here that the personality of the owners begins to shine. The choice of colors, of textures. Keep the rustic wood or paint it white. Leave the brick exposed or cover it. Every choice tells a story. In a winery, wood is usually the main character. Huge, ancient beams that saw grape harvests 100 years ago. Sanding these beams is like revealing history. The dust that comes off them smells like the past. By treating this wood, you are honoring the hands that cut it and placed it there centuries ago. It is a direct connection with ancestors you never met. But don't think everything is perfect in the final stretch. This is when mental exhaustion peaks. Construction blindness is real. You stop seeing the progress and only see the defects. The baseboard that is crooked, the paint that's stained, the door that doesn't close right. Perfectionism can be the biggest enemy of finishing. You need to learn to accept that done is better than perfect. In life, how many times do we fail to finish something because it wasn't perfect? Here, in this vastness of square meters, if you seek perfection in every centimeter, you will never finish. You need to pick your battles. Now, look at the wide spaces. What was once a dark warehouse now receives natural light. Light is everything. It changes the mood. It changes the temperature. Cutting windows into stone walls half a meter thick is a titanic task, but the result is divine. Sunlight entering where there was only darkness before is the best metaphor for this restoration. It is bringing clarity to chaos. Have you ever felt enlightened after solving a big problem? That is the feeling these windows bring to the house. As the year progresses and the seasons change in the video, you notice how the house reacts to the weather. The rain, which used to be a deadly enemy, is now just a relaxing noise on the new roof. The wind, which used to enter through the cracks and freeze the bones, now stays outside. The house has become a shelter again. It fulfilled its purpose. Recovering the dignity of a building is something powerful. It stops being a ruin and goes back to being a home. This change of status is the true miracle. It's not magic, it's sweat.
Have you ever stopped to think about the value of old things? We live in a disposable world. If it breaks, throw it away and buy another. If it gets old, swap it for a new one. Restoring this winery goes against everything modern society preaches. It is saying no to waste and yes to recovery. It is seeing value where others see trash. Are you the type who fixes or the type who replaces? This philosophy applies to everything: objects, houses, and even relationships. The effort of fixing creates a bond that buying new will never create. We are approaching the end of the 365 days. The transformation is brutal. If you blinked, you missed it. The floor, which was beaten earth and rubble, is now a level and welcoming floor. The walls, which threatened to fall, are now firm and decorated. The empty space has been filled with life. But more important than the physical transformation is the emotional transformation. The fear from the beginning of the video has disappeared. It gave way to a quiet confidence. They know that if they could do this, they can do anything. The renovation teaches that no problem is unsolvable if you break it into small pieces. But is it really over? Anyone who has a house knows that a house is never ready, especially one this size. There will always be a tile to change, a wall to paint, a garden to tend. But the survival phase has passed. Now is the living phase. They can finally sit on the sofa, look around, and say, "We did this." Can you feel their relief? That deep sigh of someone who took a ton of weight off their shoulders. It is the moment of reward. What did we learn from these 365 days? We learned that the size of the dream is proportional to the size of the sacrifice. There is no shortcut to places worth going. If they had bought a ready-made apartment in the city, they would have avoided all this pain, all this dust, all this cold. But they would have also missed the adventure. They would have missed the chance to create something unique. A comfortable life is safe, but a bold life is memorable. 20 years from now, no one will remember the weekend spent watching TV in the apartment, but they will remember every day they spent fighting this house. They will remember the day the water froze in the pipes, the day they found an old tool hidden in the wall,
the day the first friend came to visit and their jaw dropped. These memories are the true wealth. The house is just the scenery where life happens. And what a spectacular scenery they built. 750 square meters of stories. Now I ask you, what is your abandoned winery? What is that project, that dream you put aside because it seemed too big, too hard, or too scary? Maybe it's not building a house. Maybe it's writing a book, starting a business, learning a new language, or moving to a new city. The fear you feel is normal. Fear is just a sign that you are about to do something important. If it wasn't scary, it wouldn't be worth it. Look at the final result. See how the light hits the dining table. See how the bedroom looks like a haven of peace. None of this existed a year ago. It was just dust and potential. The only difference between the ruin and the palace was action. They didn't just stay planning, they picked up the hammer and swung. The world is full of people who plan and few who do. Which side do you want to be on? The miracle of restoration is not about bricks. It is about believing. Believing that it is possible to see beauty in chaos. Believing that hard work pays off. Believing in the future, even when the present seems to be falling apart. This winery stood still in time for decades, waiting for someone who had the courage to wake it up. And now it is alive. It breathes. It will shelter laughter, tears, dinners, and dreams. It has become useful to the world again. As the lights go out and night falls over the finished house, a reflection remains. Time will pass anyway. The 365 days will pass whether you build your dream or stay on the sofa. The only choice you have is how you are going to use that time. They chose to use it to build, and the result is there, to leave us with our jaws dropped. Not because of the house itself, but because of the human capacity to transform reality. Thank you for following this intense journey. Sometimes all we need is to see someone overcome the impossible to remind us that we can too. Don't leave your dreams gathering dust like an old house. Go out there and start your own renovation, whatever it may be.